sensitive mic.
Yeah. Dear Brother with Alex and Mark is brought to you by absolutely no one. So yeah. So wasn't this show supposed to be about the election?
It was. I had a bunch of questions about fire and what's going on over there, so I figured we'd start it off with that.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
And spin off.
Yeah. Okay, on today's podcast, we're going to be discussing the upcoming election. 9 days away. Mark's voted. Alex is not. Alex lives in New York. Mark lives in Colorado. I don't think we have anything of value to add about the actual election, but I do think we have something interesting to add about what voting looks like across the country. I'll start.
Go ahead.
Since 2000,
Since you've already voted.
Since 2000 and I believe 13 or 14, Colorado is a all mail-in state. And what that means is that every single registered voter in the state receives a mail ballot in the mail, and has for years. If you choose, you can still go and vote in person at your local polling place. You can choose to do that, or you can simply fill out your ballot in the comfort of your home and put it in your mailbox. Or if you're like me, you can fill out the ballot in the comfort of your own home, and you can go and drive to your nearest ballot drop-off box and drop it in the box. That's it. We got our ballots, I think 2 weeks ago. And I'm where I sit right now is where I filled out my ballot. And I think it was about 4 or 5 days ago I was going to go run an errand, so I just took my ballot with me and I dropped it in the ballot box at my local shopping center. And that was it. And then I got a text message from the county clerk, saying, "Thank you. Your vote has been received and is eligible for counting," which means that everything went well and my signature matched and there was no issues. And if there were, their ballot track system, which is what they call it, would have alerted me that I needed to either request a new ballot because there was something wrong with my other one, or I could go vote in person many, many days before Election Day. It couldn't be any easier.
Yeah, New York's not like that.
Yeah, lots of states.
I could send in for a mail-in ballot if I wanted to, but that's, you have to request it, send in. I've never done it, so I don't know what the application process is. I assume it's some sort of form you have to fill out, and then you submit, and they send it to you. I don't recall in past elections if they've had early voting. I'm sure they did. I guess just because past elections weren't so volatile that I never really paid attention to it here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they opened up this week and it goes through Sunday.
I think that's a good idea, even under normal circumstances. Like, political affiliations aside, it should be the easiest thing in the world to vote. You should be able to vote in your sleep.
It should be, but look, everything going on with the pandemic and everything, I'm sure that compounds things. Like, I've never had an issue voting normally. Like, every election day I've gone to my local school, voted. It's been a probably 20-minute process. So I just anticipate this time being a little bit more shitty because of everything going on and spacing out and all the other nonsense. I figured if I can get it done early, I'll do it early and get it out of the way.
And for sure, I would like to put it out there from the position of the human who does not have the luxury of taking a day off, works in one place and has to drive to another place, polling locations closing at 7:00 in November when it's already dark, trying to make it to that spot before the polling location closes. My own personal experience as a child is my mother would rush home from work to try to basically scoop me up from wherever I was being cared for so that way she could get to the polling location at the end of the day, basically, right before they closed. And any hiccup, a flat tire, bad weather, an accident on the road would have prevented her from being able to vote because she wasn't able to take a day off. And
Right.
it was a struggle. And I don't understand why it is the case that, first of all, Election Day should have been a national holiday. Like, as many people should be off on Election Day as possible. But some people can't be off on certain days. Nurses, doctors, firefighters, police, you can't, right? You still should be able to vote. So shouldn't there be multiple days to be able to vote? Right, sure. Shouldn't
Makes sense.
It should be the easiest thing in the world. Like, we should be at a point, we are quite literally the most advanced freaking society on the face of the planet. And it is absurdly complex in certain places to cast the most important thing you have to cast in this country. Arguably, there is no more important civic duty than casting your vote.
Yeah, I don't understand why more states just don't do exactly what Colorado does. Like, why wouldn't? I'm curious what the reasoning is to not send out ballots 2 weeks out, 2 weeks prior to the election, saying, "Hey, here you go."
There's all sorts of theories about that. There's cases where in certain states, in certain locations, in certain states, that there is an active attempt to suppress a vote. And
Yeah, I believe that.
if you reduce the ease by which people can vote, then the people who are least able to be flexible are least likely to vote. And those people who are least likely to be flexible are the people who are most likely to vote in a particular direction.
Right.
That's moderately conspiratorial, but it's also really true. Like you and I are about as privileged as you can get. You just said, I'm going to take a day off and go vote because I can.
Right.
I just told you about I voted in my pajamas. It was great. 'Cause this is a piece of cake. But in a state where there is no mail-in voting and there is no early voting, and you are a brown woman, you are less likely to vote because
It's true.
you can't get off work, and you work at your shift ends at 6:30, and the polling place closes at 7, and it's 80 miles away because whatever, right? So like, there's reasons why it's not as easy to vote in certain places because it's been actively made to be such the case. In this election alone, I know that, and I don't know exactly what the math is, but like in Texas, I believe the governor, as of a few weeks ago, made it so that way there could only be one ballot drop-off box per county in the state of Texas. So like on paper, that seems like, oh yeah, only, one drop-off box per county. Well, you've got certain counties in western Texas that have like 150 people living in them. And then you've got other counties in central Texas where there are millions of people living in them.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, then you consider the size of those counties. What if you live in the northwest portion of the county and the drop-off box is in the southeast portion and it's like a 3-hour drive because, hey, it's Texas.
Not to say that somehow India is better than us because they're objectively not in many regards. But do you know in India they actually send people, like election officials, into the deepest reaches of the rural parts of India where like literally 2 people live in the middle of nowhere surrounded by no one just so they can cast a vote? Like they actually send the it's almost as if like somebody went door to door with a ballot box and went, here you go, put it in.
Trick or treat.
Uh-huh. Isn't that wild?
Fascinating.
Yeah. You had mentioned to me a while back, and numerous times over the course of years, about how like you really wish there was a proper third party candidate to vote for.
Yeah, I'm looking at this election. I'm voting for the lesser of two evils, right? Because I don't think the Biden-Harris ticket, it doesn't inspire me. It's not like someone I'm like, yeah, I'm totally behind this guy. It's just I'm voting for him particularly just because the other guy's a moron, and I think that based on what Biden said, he'll handle everything going on with the pandemic much better than this idiot has. But as far as who he is as a politician, he's a politician. He's a career politician, and I hate career politicians because there shouldn't be such a thing, in my opinion. But yeah, I can't take 4 more years of this idiot either. He's going to end up killing us all in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job on that.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job.
So, I'm starting to believe, because I used to say the same thing. I used to think the same way, and I'm starting to believe that it's a fallacy that any other political party or any other candidate would somehow be a magic bullet in place of the two. And for years and years and years, myself, you, other people, lots of people, just about everybody says oh, I'll vote for this guy because he's the lesser of the two evil, right? And I am starting to believe that would always be the case, no matter how many candidates there were, and that at some point or another, everybody sort of just needs to realize that there is no one person who will do all of the things that you want them to do. And it's never going to happen. And you just have to vote for the person who is going to do the most things that you want them to do. Or at least says the most things that you want them to say.
Well, that's the thing.
So I looked at the results of New Zealand had an election. And apparently New Zealand is like the most lovely place on earth where everybody is wonderful. And they all, fucking hang out on the streets and sing Kumbaya. And the prime minister is lovely. And she drives a Hyundai and she picks people up at the airport. And there's all these things about it that seem so idyllic. It's fascinating.
She an Uber driver?
Maybe. Why not? I think she just does it out of the kindness of her heart, because that's the kind of place and person she is. But I looked at the results of the election, and the headlines all read, Jacinda, I think it's Ardern or Ardern, I don't know. Anyway, the Prime Minister of New Zealand wins by landslide victory, second term. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, to be expected. It seemed like everybody really liked her. She won 50% of the vote. Because the other 750 other political parties took up 1,
the
2,
other 50%,
8%, 3%, 4.5%, up to 50%. And I looked at the chart and I went, oh, right. So I see how it goes. It doesn't matter how many political parties you have that may or may not be viable. Even in a government like New Zealand's parliamentary system, where you can have multiple representatives from multiple political parties because of the nature of their election system, but the majority wins the prime minister. Even in that scenario, you're still doing the same. It's the same damn thing. It really is. It's almost as if we've just gone that's just too much noise. So 2 of us, suck it up. Third party, what are you going to do? You're going to get 4% of the vote? Fuck off. So I guess what I'm saying is that I don't think it's any different anywhere else. I just think it's more noisy. And I don't because here's the thing, saying what you've said about Biden,
mm-hmm.
whether it's true or not, do you believe that there is anybody that you can imagine in your head who would run for office and be who Alex Perez wants them to be in every way? Well enough to be able to go. I'm going to get out in the streets and I'm going to cheer for this guy. I'm going to put up a sign. And I'm going to hold it up and I'm going to bounce up and down. And
no, because I'm a cynical bastard.
Yeah.
The only person I could do that for would be myself.
Right. So, what does that even mean? If we had a third party candidate, would you be excited about that third party candidate? No, you'd still be.
Maybe.
You'd be just as cynical and angry.
I might be more excited than what we have now.
You might be slightly more excited than what we have now.
Slightly more excited. That's all I'm looking for. Slightly more excited.
Okay, here. Let me ask you a question. In the current situation that we have now, a horrible monster, a guy who is perfectly qualified, capable, and reasonably empathetic to be the president, and a third candidate who gets Alex's juices flowing, who also has no chance of winning an election. Who would you vote for? You are psyched, though. You really like this guy. He's everything.
I'd vote for the person I'm psyched for.
You'd vote for the person you're psyched for. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I think
my vote.
It totally is, and it is well within every little bit of your right to vote the way that you want to vote. But I go back to the argument that each time that happens, that one of the other candidates receives fewer votes as a result. Because in this scenario, you would vote for a third party candidate and therefore you would not vote for Biden.
Right.
It is the case that not a vote for Biden equals not necessarily a win for your third party candidate, but fewer votes for Biden, just fewer votes, which means that the horrible shitbag is more likely to win because the third party candidate is not going to receive 34% of the vote, enough to win. So like I know where you're coming from, and I don't disagree with you principally and philosophically, but practically speaking, it just seems like it's until the system is such that there are three parties that are equally matched, it doesn't go anywhere. And I'm not saying that you're throwing away your vote, because you're not. You're still voting. It's still, you're voting your conscience. You're voting it's your right. But I just see it as dangerous. No?
No, I don't.
Okay.
It depends on the scenario. Depends on who's running, right? Let's look at previous elections. I mean, this one in particular is different just because Trump is Trump, right? I mean, if he wins again, I'm convinced he's gonna again kill us all. It's just he's so irresponsible and so stupid that it's not good. So I'll push my feelings aside and I'll vote for Biden, even though I'm not 100% sold on him either. But again, I think he has the experience and he seems to say all the right things when it comes to, because to me the most important thing is the handling of what's going on with the pandemic, right? I feel like that's been so mishandled and so botched by this administration that I couldn't possibly see myself ever voting for Trump, and I'd have to vote for whoever is running against him who has a chance to win. Mm-hmm. But if this wasn't going on, if this was just a normal election year.
You mean like just any old Republican versus any old Democrat?
Any old Republican versus any old Democrat. Uh-huh. Unless one or the other really, I was like, man, I like this guy or lady. I'd probably, again, look at my third-party options closer.
So I'm a registered independent, and I have been.
As am I.
I don't know, for as long as I can. I think I was a registered Republican for like a minute when I was 18 because my family was Republican, and so I thought that was the way to go. And then I immediately realized that I was way more liberal than that, but I also wasn't a Democrat. So,
right.
And I think, and I agree with you that there are, in any old election where it's any old Republican versus any old Democrat, I voted for Bush the first time, and I voted, and I didn't the second time. And
who do you run against the second time? The horse-faced guy. What's his face from Massachusetts? Edward. No. Kerry.
John Kerry.
Yeah. Yes.
Horse-faced guy. Should have just said horse-faced guy. I saw his face. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't like Kerry, but I liked him more than Bush at that time. And so where was I going with this? I was going with this that for the most part, for the better part of our lives anyway, Republicans and Democrats haven't been terribly different from each other. They've been basically the same side, or two sides of the same coin. The Republicans want this way to go this way, and the Democrats want that way to go that way. But they were never terribly different, and there was always enough of a split and enough of a compromise that even though things may have been going in a direction or the other that you didn't agree with, they weren't going terribly fast in any one direction, which meant that they were more reasonable, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case anymore.
No.
And it has been less and less the case to the point where now where we are with Trump, it is so far not the case that my joke for the 2016 election was Trump's going to make me vote for the socialist. I was going to vote Bernie with open arms. I was going to vote him so hard because I knew Trump was a moron from the very beginning. And that is exactly the problem, is that I don't necessarily agree with everything Bernie Sanders has to say. Now, to be sure, I believe Bernie Sanders is like a stand-up human being who cares about things. And just because I don't agree with certain of his certain policies that he has or certain ideas that he has, doesn't mean that I don't believe he's a good person. I could agree with every single policy Trump has, and I could tell you that he's not a good person. Now, I don't agree with any of the policies that the man has, but the point of the story is that he's moved me to the extreme, because I would happily vote a socialist, a self-proclaimed socialist, into the office of the presidency in an effort to remove Donald Trump from the office. Happily. Like, I'd put a fucking sign up if I needed to. And there is no way I can remember what my original point was. But yeah, all those words I said.
Fair enough. I still don't. I don't think it's going to be the landslide that a lot of people are predicting. I'm incredibly nervous.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was wrong the first time.
Oh, I was right the first time. That's what scares me.
Oh, you thought he was going to win?
Oh, I called it. Remember when we went to Frank's wedding in Pennsylvania?
Vaguely.
And we were driving around. We went to, what was it, Centralia, whatever, the ghost town. Mm-hmm. And I said, wow, there's a lot of Trump signs out here. Mm-hmm. That's when it clicked in my head. I was like, this guy's going to win, because there was a lot of Trump signs everywhere. And I was not expecting that.
No, but...
Because I was expecting more people to be able to see through his bullshit. But clearly they cannot.
No.
Because they just can't. And it's scary, because even out here, you see the signs and the parades, and it's fucking scary, man.
I've got signs up here too. I mean, so I guess
you have parades. Do you have parades? Do you have like trucks, convoys of pickup trucks with flags and honking of horns and signs?
I mean, there have been some things in the Denver area, but not up here. I mean, nobody lives up
there
here.
There was one last weekend that went from Belmore to Montauk. And it was like something like 500 or 600 vehicles that made this trip.
See, I have two things. Thing number one is he did win the last election. There's no question about that. But to be sure, he did not win it by a wide margin, no matter what he says. He barely won that election, which is enough, but he barely won it. So at that time, where nobody knew what kind of shitbag apparently he was, he only just barely won.
You talking popular vote or electoral college?
Either way, because he lost the popular vote and he won the electoral college by a fairly small margin.
Not really. He won 306 to 232.
Yeah, that's a fairly small margin. That's 2 or 3 swing states, and those swing states, mind you, only went in that direction by very slim margins. In like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, Hillary only lost by 0.5% in those states. So it wasn't so he won the electoral college votes by a sufficient margin to win, but he didn't win those states by a big enough margin to call it a landslide by any means. Okay. And he lost the overall popular vote. So functionally speaking, he did not win a very large majority. Also, I'll add that of our population, I believe the number is only 22% of our population actually voted. So
I think you'll see a higher number this year.
Sure. I hope so. I really do. And I hope that's true in general. I really think that one of the things that I've never quite understood is how our voter turnout is so low in general, probably because of the things.
People are lazy. All the things we spoke about earlier, being inconvenient, difficult to vote, work, all those things come into play.
Yeah. So the first thing off is that Trump didn't win by a very wide margin. The other thing is that I have often believed, and I really do believe this to be true, again without much proof, but those that are the most sidelined and cornered are usually the loudest. Like, I don't have a sign that says Joe Biden. I didn't have a sign that said Hillary Clinton, and I didn't have a sign that said President Obama or Barack Obama. I don't, and you don't either. And it's because you and I are fairly reasonable, moderate pragmatists who are happy to vote, happy to be involved, happy to pay attention, but are not going to go out and shake the pom-poms on any one side. But first of all, we're not unique. There's lots of us out there. But like I've watched numerous groups over the years who are increasingly radical and extreme. And if you pay attention closely enough, you'll find that they're usually radical and extreme because they're usually the groups in their death throes. They're the ones who are running out. The sounds that are coming from your end are fucking extraordinary. It's a series of clicks and gurgles, and it's stunning.
I'm clicking the electoral map to see who I think is going to win what states and see what it adds up to.
Okay, well, you enjoy that. I don't play that game anymore. I did that already years ago.
Yeah.
So
you have a win.
It didn't matter. None of it matters. None of it matters. You cast your vote and you move on with your life because none of it matters. Maybe Barbara's got it right. Although I still wish she would vote. Would she vote for Trump?
No, she thinks he's an idiot.
So why won't she just go vote for Biden? Just go.
She doesn't think it matters.
See, here's the thing. And that's the thing that scares me because 2016, my mother had the same outlook. Oh, what does it matter? Because I live in Delaware and Hillary's going to win Delaware. And I'm like, yeah, you might be right. But, first of all, it's important to do because we're Americans and that's our job. But second of all, in this particular election, every single way in which Trump loses makes this a safer transition. If he only wins, or rather, if he only loses by a small margin, whether it's popular or electoral, he has ever more the reason to contest and make noise. If he loses by a landslide not seen since Reagan won an election in 1980, then he can't say a word. And even if he does, he's going to be dismissed.
Yeah.
I agree. Do you have to make diarrhea poopies?
No. My stomach's just making noises today.
It's incredible. I mean, the last one I just heard sounded like you just leaked all of your bowels from your asshole.
Not at all. I feel fine. No, I forgot to click Alaska. Hold on.
Alaska's going to vote for Trump.
I've got Biden 290 to 248.
You've got Biden 290 to 248. And how did you even come to this nonsense thing?
Well, I just assumed every southern state's going to vote for Trump.
Okay.
I gave Biden Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And Michigan, which I'm not sold on either. I'm not sold on Michigan.
What are you basing any of this on? Is really what I'm asking.
The stupidity of the rest of the country.
See, so purely, this is
purely guessing.
It's a pure hunch.
Pure hunch.
You have no real data.
There's nothing concrete.
Okay.
This is just my gut instinct, which is obviously my guts are making noises.
Your guts are very active. Okay.
I've got all the West Coast states voting Biden. So Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, Nevada. Although Hillary won Nevada last time, so I'll stick with that one. New Mexico and Arizona. Then I've got Texas, all the breadbasket states, red. The ones I'm not sure of are Minnesota, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And that's 36 votes, electoral votes. Mm-hmm. That could swing it right the other way.
Okay. I mean, we can engage in wild speculation for the remainder of the program.
I love wild speculation.
Yeah. However, I don't care to speculate wildly anymore because it's not. I white knuckled the last election. Literally, I white knuckled it, and I don't want to do it again this time because I understood that it didn't matter. It didn't matter. The constant update of information was so damned stressful, and absolutely none of it meant anything. It's like looking at a death count from a hurricane. At this hour, the death count is 103. At this hour, the death count is 104. At this hour, the death count's been corrected to 99. At this hour, the death count's now at 101. What difference does it fucking make? What the fuck am I going to do about it? Am I going to go down there and prevent somebody from dying if I get there fast enough before the death count number gets reported again? No, absolutely not. So why am I doing this to myself? So I chose not to do it to myself. That was basey.
Fair. Did you ever notice that the western edge of Montana looks like a face and it looks like it's kissing Idaho?
Mm-hmm.
I just noticed that.
Did you ever notice that the name of the frozen potato is Orida, and that it's actually because the farm is on the border of Oregon and Idaho?
No.
Orida.
Orida?
Mm-hmm. It was a thing that I never really understood, but yeah.
It's a fun map.
I've clicked on, I don't know where you are exactly, but I've been on a very similar map before, and it is fun because you can sit there. I did it. Have you ever used it before, or is this the first time?
This is the first.
Oh, okay. Well, you enjoy the next several hours of hunched anxiety while you play out every scenario in your head and click and turn one state red and one state blue until your eyes burn.
So even if he loses Minnesota and Wisconsin, Biden still wins 270 to 268. That's a close one.
Mm-hmm. That's a close one. Oh yeah.
And that's with him. That's with him winning. Biden winning Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Virginia.
Right.
It's going to be a spicy one, Ayub.
Why are you doing this to yourself?
It's fun.
Is it?
Why not?
Is it fun?
Yeah, a little bit. What else do I have going on?
Coming up on the next podcast. Is it fun or is it actually addictive?
It's a little bit of both. It's sort of like gambling.
Yeah. It is sort of like gambling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much, much bigger stakes.
Wild speculation. I wouldn't mind a big steak. When was the last time you had a big
steak? Like an actual steak?
Yeah, when was the last time you had a big steak?
Not a big one. I had a skirt steak last night.
Yeah, but when was the last time you had a big steak?
I don't like big steaks.
Really?
Yeah, not a fan.
Huh. You're Argentinian, man. Of course you like big steaks. What are you talking about? You like all the steaks.
Yeah, but not like big ones. Like I don't like a big porterhouse or anything like that.
Porterhouses are a little bit much, but how about like a nice big thick ribeye?
Nah, I don't like thick meats.
All right.
Good skirt steak. Anything like larger than an inch thickness, it's like
Oh yeah,
inch and a half.
Well, first of all, a skirt steak. If you find me an inch thick skirt steak, I'll call you a liar.
No, it's not. That's why I like it.
Yeah, but like anything more than an inch, yeah, I think is too much anyway. That's crazy. But a nice.
Oh God.
Easy.
Sorry.
I'll punch the mic. Yeah. So wild speculation. My gut tells me that I want Joe Biden to win, but my gut tells me that Donald Trump can also win, and so I don't bother trying to pick one. I vote for the one that I vote for, and I wait it out.
So you won't even venture a guess.
I mean, sure, Biden's gonna win.
Now you're just appeasing.
Sure, you're right. Trump's gonna win.
Yeah.
See, it's meaningless.
Yeah.
It's fucking meaningless.
I know, but it's fun.
No.
Isn't it?
No, I don't think it's fun.
You've never done that?
Of course, I've done it. And I don't do it anymore because I don't think it's fun. I've done it in the past numerous times because I want somehow in my brain, or have wanted somehow in my brain, my thoughts and feelings to impact reality. And what I realize is that they don't. They don't. I think of lots of things and none of them come true unless I actually do something about it. And without becoming some kind of terrorist or mass murderer or horrible human being, the only way that I have to affect change is to vote. So that's the thing that I do. And in order to vote in a reasonable way, I believe it's important to be informed and educated. So I do that. So that way when I vote, I feel good about my vote, at least as good as I can. But beyond that, there's nothing that I can do. My feelings don't mean anything. I've been hoping for the fires up north to not grow. I have, literally. It's like I even say things like to myself out loud, like, what's happening? Are you praying? You're not praying. Of course you're not praying. You don't pray. What are you doing? You're hoping? You're quietly hoping to? What the fuck does that do?
Quietly?
It's meaningless. It's absolute.
Makes you feel better.
Does it though? Because here's the thing.
Doesn't it?
How many times have you had your hopes smashed? All the time. So
story of my life.
So to me, it is more important, and it's not that I'm saying that hope isn't important, because it is. See last podcast, but to a certain degree, there's no point in speculating about what may or may not happen. The only point is to do what you need to do.
Fair. That said, I hope that I'm wrong, but I think Trump's going to win.
I hope that you're wrong too.
I hope very hard that I'm wrong. And to your point, if anyone's listening or will be listening, and this is published before the election, go vote.
Yes.
No matter who you want to vote for.
It's the only thing you can do.
That's it. I agree with you there.
You could hold up all the signs you want, but the only thing that matters is to actually vote.
Agreed.
And
we agreed on something.
We agree on a lot of things. I think I don't know. Just, yeah.
We'll know in 2 weeks. Hopefully. Who knows? We may not know in 2 weeks.
We may not know in 2 weeks. And
that actually scares me more than any other alternative.
So the thing that actually scares me, beyond the inevitable civil unrest that will occur, because that is at this point now, that's just going to happen. Does not matter what the outcome is. What concerns me, and has been concerning me, this is not new, is the active attempt from what seems like just the Republican Party in general. I can't imagine it's not just Trump. It's really just like the entirety of the Republican Party, it seems, is attempting to undermine the election. And that means two things to me. Thing number one, they think they're going to lose. Or thing number two, they don't care if they're going to win or lose, but they're going to burn it down on their way out. And that's what scares me.
Yeah.
Because for all intent and purposes, all of the reasonable signals indicate Biden's going to win. We have what is now basically 4 years of a Trump presidency to have changed people's minds in one direction or the other. The Trump parade of 500 pickup trucks rolling down Sunrise Highway or whatever it was, that's not representative of the entire country. It's representative of some of the country, but that's a base of voter that is not going to change no matter what. And I remind anybody, you in this case, that on the day that Nixon resigned from office, he had 20-something% support in the country. His approval rating was high enough that he still had 20-something% of support. So even in a black and white, figuratively and literally case that not only was he effectively guilty, but he was going to get impeached and he was going to get voted out of office by the Senate, and he resigned to avoid it. Even in that scenario, the country, to some degree, still supported him. So there is always the scenario where somebody will still support Trump, no matter what. Trump was right. He could go out on a Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and he'd still get votes. And that's true. But all of the reasonable indicators indicate that Biden is going to win. And not even just, forget the polls, because that's a whole other conversation. I'd like to discuss polls one day, because I think that's fascinating. I have a theory on all that. But none of that matters. If Trump burns it down on the way out, does it matter if Biden wins? I don't know.
Time will tell. I think he's more likely to burn it down on the way out if it's a much closer election. I think if it's a landslide in Biden's favor, he has less fuel to burn it down with. If it's a closer election, then strap in. It's going to be a bumpy ride for the next 3 months or longer.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's, to me, that's why everybody should vote. Even if you live in the most liberal enclave on the planet, you should still vote, because for every vote against Trump at this point, there is a lower chance that our society will be destroyed by the outcome of this election.
Yeah.
And if you like your frozen meats, and you're like,
I love my frozen meats.
if you like your electricity and your central heat, and you like being able to like get in your car and drive to a place without fear of bricks being thrown, you should vote. Because here's the thing, too. I'll say this with the utmost confidence. If Trump wins, and he does so by a good margin, we'll be better off than if this election is close in either direction.
Interesting.
There's my speculation.
That was a good one.
This election needs to be decisive.
One way or the other.
I don't want Trump. I don't like Trump. I hate Trump. Trump bad. But if Trump win, and Trump win good, well, the people have spoken, and such is life. Thanks for joining us on today's podcast.